So, hello and welcome back to another thrilling episode of, say it the way I want it to be, of Exploring Azeroth with Beryl, who I switched up her mog because we are exploring the incredibly interesting zone of Deepholm. And Deepholm is a really cool area thematically, but not as exciting for somebody like me who's always looking for housing and little secret areas, because this just doesn't have a lot, but it's a very cool looking area. Now, it does not actually have anything that is necessarily like what you would consider a normal zone. It does have portals that are right over here for the Horde and the Alliance. This one over here is for the Horde. You've got your Horde message board and your little Horde area over here where your Horde players can stay. You don't actually have a stable master, but you do at least have a nice mailbox and technically innkeeper. And then the Alliance side has the exact same thing. You've got an innkeeper, a mailbox, and a portal back to Stormwind for whenever you are done here. But it doesn't actually have any other bases, flight masters, nothing like that. Like, this is kind of a unique zone, especially unique when you consider that it is probably our largest representation of an elemental plane. Also, if you're into pet battling, it's really nice. Your pet battle will be right here in front of the earth pillar, which is what Deathwing broke, if you look up there, when he broke out of the elemental plane and took off. In fact, you can follow the blood trail and actually see where Deathwing was imprisoned. I'm guessing that technically this might be the area in the cinematic, the opening cinematic, where you see Deathwing getting the plates hammered onto his body. And if so, that's really interesting. I'm not 100% sure on that, but looking down at it right now and looking at kind of the little area right here, I could see this being that area. Better lighting now, which is probably both a good and bad thing. So, like I said, there's not a lot in the way of inns or fun little secret areas or anything like that. What there is a lot of gorgeous geometry and a place to see the elementals kind of at their rawest. I'm also really wondering if the War Within is going to look, if we're going to end up in any areas that kind of look like this, especially since we're going to be dealing with the Earthen Dwarves as a new allied race. I'm kind of curious about that. But yeah, it's kind of neat because as you fly along, you can see the elemental plane trying to like break apart and also trying to reform itself, which I think is incredibly cool. So over here is where it looks like a Horde ship went down and is now being taken over by all sorts of, again, elementals. Also very interesting to me because I don't remember seeing them any place other than Outland. If you go down here amongst these rock formations, you can see the flares, the stone flares that I remember being all over in Outland back when I did Outland. Not sure if they're the same race or not, but they sure do look about the same if you actually take a look at them. They're also trying futilely to hit poor Beryl. It's not working really well. So yeah, like I said, it's an interesting area. There's also two different types of dragons that are here. There are twilight dragons and then these kind of stone dragons that are absolutely beautiful, and I kind of want one as a pet. They're hostile, which probably means that you wouldn't exactly want them as a pet, but they sure are cool looking. Now, when you're going through Deepholm and doing the story mode, you actually end up getting these earthen and the stone giants on your side, and you end up earning the trust of the Stone Mother, which is a long and involved quest chain that has you doing all sorts of things for these stone giants and earning their trust very slowly, and then they become a faction that you can actually get to Exalted to. It's a bit of a grind, but it's worth it if you're a completionist, and I am definitely a completionist. So, like I said, this is also the home of Therazane, who, if you remember, you actually meet and defeat her daughter in the was it the Wailing Caverns? No, it wasn't the Wailing Caverns. It was that ginormous dungeon that I can never remember the name of because it's so dang big. It should have been a raid. Anyway, you defeat her daughter, the princess, who had an affair with a demigod and evidently was the source of the centaurs. When you meet her mother, Queen Therazane, the Stone Mother, you can definitely see where her daughter got her looks from. And you can talk to her. She's a little cranky. The Stone Mother stares down at you, through you, as if she's peering into your soul. My daughter, Theodris, sequestered herself deep within the crystal caverns of Terramach to grieve for her lost love Zeatar. There, heartless, stoneless beings invaded and slaughtered her amidst her mourning. If I had any reason to trust a creature afflicted by the curse of flesh, it was stripped from me that day. And yet, in your arrogance, you persist. One day you will outlive your usefulness. Hard to believe that you can actually become exalted with her, but you totally can. It takes a lot of doing and a lot of grinding out just quest after daily quest for these guys. But it's worth it, like I said, in the end, if you're a completionist. It's also worth it because, honestly, well, her throne is not impressive. The stones all around it really, truly are. It's one of my favorite areas in Deepholm. Also, I don't remember the channel that did it, but there was a channel on YouTube that actually managed to glitch themselves out beyond the wall of Deepholm and kind of explore some of the out of bounds areas. And I always kind of wonder how they did it. It's something that's not incredibly easy to do. And I'm kind of jealous that they both did it and were able to get video of it, because it looks really, really neat. Now over here we have the Crimson Expanse, where there are some of the fungal giants, also reminiscent of Outland. Kind of wondering if maybe this is where the ones from Outland originated, because they sure do look the same. In fact, this whole area kind of reminds me of Outland, just with smaller mushrooms, although the further you go up the pillars, the more outlandy the mushrooms begin to look. Also, be very careful when you're doing the quests out here. The mushrooms have interesting effects upon humans. This is also an area, one of, I think, only a couple areas that you can fish up the, what is their name again? We'll just have to fly over a pool. I think they're the blind cave fish that you can fish up here. I remember back during Cataclysm spending an awfully long time in Lower Silvermarsh and back in that cavern, fishing up fish and hoping not to be attacked. I also remember in Cataclysm, this was one of the best spots in the game to go dragon hunting, which not only got the dragon steaks that were one of the higher tier foods in Cata, but also if you were a skinner, it got you the dragon hide, which made you some really cool gear. At least I thought it was really cool back then. And now I still think it's kind of cool just for the transmog. But yeah, there is also a dungeon in Deepholm, and we will go fly over there. This is one of those dungeons that the first time I ran it, and I think I've mentioned several times before, I'm one of those people that doesn't really play WoW for the dungeons or for like the end game raiding and all of that. I do like doing dungeons, I just prefer doing them once I can solo them. I have pretty bad anxiety, and I put way too much pressure on myself when running a dungeon with real people. I want to do the absolute perfect run for everyone so that no one has any reason to get mad at me. But I also get lost and turned around in dungeons and get distracted by little things. So it's just easier on me to run dungeons by myself. Or now that they have implemented them, follower dungeons are chef's kiss. I kind of love them. In fact, maybe I'll even get to the point where I know the dungeons that you can do as follower dungeons well enough so that I'm not deathly afraid to run them in a group. But the first time I ran this dungeon here, I didn't know where it was, and I ran around in circles for an embarrassingly long time before I realized that it was actually at the top of the earth pillar. So there you go. Hopefully you guys already knew that. But if you didn't, now you do, and now you don't have to run around in circles for hours trying to find a dungeon that you think is down in the bottom of the earth pillar, when in actuality it's not. Now there's one other spot up here that you might want to know about. I'm not sure if it's Alliance only. It's been a long time since I've done this on the Horde side, but it is an Alliance airship, and that is this airship right here. It's sort of a mobile base that you can, actually I do know now, looking at it, I'm remembering the quests, it is either Horde or Alliance, because with either side you have to figure out what on earth has gone on, because there's only one person left alive, and let's put that in some heavy air quotes, because he's actually tied himself to the steering wheel here so that he can hopefully steer the ship, and you've got a bunch of quests that you end up doing. I just wanted to point it out because it's the closest thing to what I would consider housing in this area, and it's pretty darn neat. Like, if you don't mind a few Twilight Saboteurs that are all over, it's got a pretty cool aesthetic, and you can kind of just chill out in here and appreciate it. As long as you don't mind killing things every few minutes, because they'll be attacking you left, right, and sideways. But you know what? That's World of Warcraft. Also, in case you're curious, which I was, what happens if you try to fly out of here? Because supposedly, back when Blizzard was first planning this, they were actually going to have the entrance to this be kind of like it is into the underground zones in Dragonflight, you know, something that you actually fly into from the overworld, but they couldn't quite figure out how to do that. If you go up too high, your flying mount will eventually just make very sad noises and not go any further. Which is also what you do whenever you try to go to an out-of-bounds area, say up near Quel'Thalas, which I did manage to get through one time, but it was long before I was doing videos, and I'm not sure if I even still have screenshots, but it was a good time. But yeah, if you try to go out of bounds near Quel'Thalas now, your mount does that same little sideways meow noise. So yeah, that is about it for Deepholm. A very pretty zone that I almost never see other players in, because kind of like Vashir, you just kind of forget that it's there because you have to portal to it through a special area. So next week, and like I think I mentioned last week, I think we're going to have to do probably 2 episodes per zone as we move forward, just because the zones themselves actually ended up getting much, much bigger. But next week, we are going to be heading to Pandaria. One of, at least for exploration, one of my absolute favorite expansions for its entire general aesthetic, and also just for the sheer amount of cool stuff and cool stuff to explore in every single zone. So, thank you as always for joining me. I sincerely appreciate it. Leave me a thumbs up if you don't mind, and I will see you next week. Say goodbye, Beryl.